the cookies are done. I haven't sampled one yet, but while they're cooling, I wanted to go through my thoughts on the pantry challenge. If you were following along, we did the pantry challenge for all of February. Some people did it for January and February. It doesn't even have to be in the winter. It was just the idea of trying to use up food that you have, try not to waste things, and kind of see where you are in the scheme of what do you have stocked in your pantry and how well did you do. So our guidelines that we did was we were going to spend a month doing a pantry challenge of eating food that we already had. We did make a couple exceptions. We had family come to town and we did go out for our anniversary dinner. But other than that, we did not eat out. We didn't buy any more produce, except I think one time we did buy, what did I say? Grapes and something else. But anyway, we did pretty good and we did make an allowance for buying raw milk. However, I found out that milk freezes wonderfully. So you can buy several gallons at a time because raw milk doesn't have the shelf life that the ultra pasteurized milk has. However, we just believe that it's the only dairy worth drinking, so we drink raw milk. But I was able to buy several gallons at a time. I could stick them in the freezer and then I always had milk. So that was something that I did find out. I have a couple things of notes that I wrote down here on my phone as I was going through the challenge this month, just so I could kind of remember what my thoughts were that I wanted to share. Some are kind of funny, but some are not as funny. Our first one that we found out, like on day 2 of the challenge, was that homemade crumble cookies are actually much better than going out and buying a crumble cookie. So you can cook your own cookies at home. It's much more cost effective anyway. But anyway, we did find out that the copycat crumble cookies were even better than the store. So some more serious things though was that I became mindful of waste in other areas of my life. So once I realized that I was wasting extra food, like by not using up leftovers or throwing away little ends of bags that I didn't use, or buying something that I mentioned before seemed great at Costco and then you get home and you have this, $15 bag of something that you ate 2 bites and then you didn't really like it. I started noticing that waste, but then I started noticing other ways that I was wasting things in my life, like buying things that I didn't need, or wasting time, or wasting money. It all seems to go hand in hand. So when you find control in one area of your life, it tends to bleed over in a very positive way to other areas. You start watching what you eat. You start using your time more wisely. You start wanting to take walks or exercise because now you're eating healthy and you're not spending time, or wasting money going out to fast food. So anyway, that was a bonus. So overall, I would say then that I had more time. So I did end up spending more time outside because I knew that whatever meals that I already had in my house. So I wouldn't spend a lot of time kind of wondering if I should go to the store or wondering if I should make something different for dinner. It was like, hey, I already have the stuff. It's already in my house. So that frees me up to want to go outside. Plus, we were kind of doing part of the 1,000 hours challenge of wanting to get ourselves outside as much as we could. I did realize that grocery stores can be overwhelming. You walk in there thinking you have an idea, certain things start jumping out at you, you start buying stuff that maybe you didn't need, or you change course on what you were going to make. So I do think there's an overwhelming factor to a grocery store that when you're just not in them, you don't have to make these decisions. On the flip side of that, I did find that I miss going to the grocery store. I kind of like just seeing all the food out there. I'm not much for shopping in malls, like I've said before, but I do like shopping in grocery stores, particularly if they're like a smaller local co-op type of a store that has more unique foods, more higher quality foods. But I do spend a fair amount of time usually in Costco or in Fred Meyer, which is our local grocery store here. So it was kind of nice to not feel like I had to go to them, but in some ways I did kind of miss going to them because I do like to go grocery shopping. So we were on also a spending freeze. So not only were we doing our pantry challenge eating, but we were also trying not to spend money as much in general. I mean, there were certain things that we needed, but we did try to be very thoughtful about them and think about, do I want this or is this an impulse decision? So I felt that my overall buying really went down. I didn't have an impulse decision to buy something, we kind of thought about it first. Let's see. The spending freeze I wrote down takes away the mental stress of deciding whether or not you should slide through a drive-through. Yes, this happens to me. Sometimes we're out and about, we're hungry, and I think, I don't know. And I feel like I have this mental stress of like, but we're all hungry, we just need to eat, or we're all gonna be hungry and crabby, but it costs a lot of money to go through a drive-through. This month, I just knew we weren't going through a drive-through. So it didn't even cross my mind to go through one. If we were hungry, we had to make a decision of, do we want to just do this hungry or should we go home and make something? I did get really good about anticipating when we were going to be hungry. So either it's like, hey, let's eat and then go run our errands, or we would just pack along something to eat. So mentally, it took away all that stress. I didn't have to think about whether or not we were going to spend the money or the time or the calories eating out. It just didn't happen. We also noticed that because we weren't going out, which usually, we're pretty good about not eating out too much, but I would say that often it would end up into kind of once a week. Maybe we would catch Chick-fil-A for lunch or something like that. And we did not get sick at all. And knock on wood, sicknesses kind of come and go, but it seemed like for a while we were just getting sick like every 3 weeks and we weren't kind of getting over it. There's 6 people in the family. We're all just kind of passing it around, chronically kind of still getting sick. And then I noticed that it has been like quite a few weeks now and we're still, like I say, knock on wood, we're healthy. So there is something to going out. A lot of people handle your food. It is fast food. A lot of people are touching it, maybe not washing their hands as they should. And then another thing too is that you're out and about, so you're not washing your hands before you're eating your food as much either. Again, we try to be careful about that stuff, but germs just do creep in. So that was really a nice thing too. Eating simple is cost effective. So I had huge bags of green beans that were frozen from Costco. I really missed that I ran out and I forgot to put them on the list, but that bag of green beans made lots of dinners. And if we're just grilling burgers or making chicken, having green beans as a side, and then having some type of starch like sweet potatoes or rice or something, it's very cost effective. Once you start adding in bottles, like I made Thai lettuce wraps before the challenge, and I bought the chili sauce and I bought the hoisin sauce and that kind of stuff. They're $5 a bottle. And if you're not making them yourself, which I didn't, I just went down and bought the bottles, that added $10 to the dish that you didn't really need. You can do a lot cheaper. So when you're trying to pinch your pennies, eat simply. It really is much more cost effective, and then you can afford higher quality foods. So my thoughts on it at the end, would I do it again? Yes, I would do it again. Would I do it for a long, long time? No, I wouldn't. And the reason is because I believe that everybody really should have probably 2 months at least of food. I'm not saying you have to freak out, the world's coming to an end. I'm not here to talk about politics. I'm just saying that in general, you don't know what is going to happen. You don't know if you're going to end up sick and needing those. You don't know if there are going to be food shortages. I personally don't like walking into the store when I see limit of whatever. That makes me kind of nervous. But really, you should have a couple months of food in there. And to finish my thought, the reason that I didn't do it for longer, and I wouldn't unless I really had lots of food, is I didn't want to deplete the food storage that we do have. We do have a good amount of meat in our freezer. Got the dog here trying to talk to me. But I wouldn't want to deplete it down to 0 because I like having that food buffer in there. So my thoughts on that are, again, get some frozen green beans. They last, or frozen vegetables, whatever it is that you eat. They last a long time, and when you saute them up, they taste really good. So it's not like they're canned. I'm not a big fan of canned vegetables. Maybe if I canned them myself, they'd have more flavor, but the stuff that you buy in the store, I think is disgusting. But you can have frozen foods, canned if you need to, but the frozen ones, I think that they taste really good. When you saute them up with a little butter and garlic, salt and pepper, they tasted perfectly fine to me. Have several cases of water. We have several cases of water because anytime you have dried goods like greens, rice, beans, if you were to make those up, they're going to need water. You're also going to want water just if your electricity goes out and you can't get your water, whatever the case is. Just make sure you have some extra water stored somewhere. Buy bulk meat if you can. There's a few reasons for that. One, of course, it's healthier if you can buy grass-fed beef or poultry that's raised humanely. The other reason that it's really good in addition to health is that once you lock in your price and say you buy a half beef or you buy 10 chickens, inflation can't touch that because you already paid for it. So whatever goes up in the store, you still have what you paid for sitting in your freezer. Bulk meat tends to be, again, this is high quality meats I'm talking about, not talking about whatever is the cheapest. And if you need to buy the cheapest because that's your budget, by all means do what you can. I'm not saying not to, I'm just saying wherever you are in your financial ability to pay for food, I personally believe it's worth the higher prices, but again, depends on what you can afford. But when I buy bulk beef, I am paying a lot less per pound than I am in the store. So if I'm paying $7.50 a pound for my burger at home in the bulk meat, I see the equivalent quality. Again, I'm talking equivalent qualities of meat for $10.99 in the store. That's quite a bit more expensive. So bulk meat, when you can buy even down to like quarter beef and it's still going to be cheaper. But if you can't do that, another way to kind of gain is every time that you go shopping, buy one extra package of meat or poultry, whatever that you're buying, or fish or whatever it is. Just buy the one extra, throw it in the freezer. Next time you go shopping, buy what you need for that week, buy a little bit extra, throw it in the freezer. And then you're starting to accumulate a nice amount of reserves in your freezer for whatever circumstance happens that you can't get out to the store. You have food right there, ready to go. Then you need a grain. So we always eat at least 3 things per night. We always have a green, we always have a meat or a protein source, and then we have a grain or starch type of thing. We stay away from white potatoes and try to stay away from white rice, but we do have some now and then. We eat a lot of sweet potatoes. They last. We have also been buying the wheat, like I told you, the wheat berries. You can actually just cook them kind of like a rice and then put a little butter or salt on them, and they're really good texture. You can put them in soup. You can grind them, of course, for bread. What else can you do with them? I make them into sourdough, so then I've got like pancakes ready to go or Dutch baby ready to go. But you can use them, like for cream of wheat. I've started making a cream of wheat in the morning, and so that's just a hot, delicious type of breakfast. But anyway, wheat berries, if you store them correctly in a airtight type of seal, they last forever. So then you always have that as a storage as well. So just get yourself some frozen vegetables, get yourself some extra meat every time you go to the store, and then also get yourself some type of a grain that will last a long time, and then you're set. I mean, easily you could live off of that for a couple months. We could have lived off of our pantry, food, freezer, or however you want to look at it, for many, many months. Again, decided not to make that choice because I don't want to deplete it, but I feel comfortable that should something happen and we couldn't get to the store, or there were shortages in the store, that we would be set long enough to try to figure out what we were going to do as our next step. So anyway, all of that I hope just encourages you, again, to start wherever you are. If it's just buying that one extra package of meat, then you have it. If it is just trying to avoid going out to fast food, you know what I noticed? Fast food, you don't really think about it at the time. It's expensive. But when I figured out how much we saved in 1 month by not eating out, it was so much money that it was kind of embarrassing. I mean, we would have never sat down to a dinner as a family like, hey, let's go out to eat, and ordered $400 worth of stuff from one restaurant. But when you add up all the little times that you would eat out, even if it's just once a week or twice a week, it creeps in there. It turns out to be pretty hefty savings by not doing that. And you can go out to a really nice dinner if you wanted to do it that way. So anyway, those are the things that I learned. I would do it again. I hope to do it again and have more food that I myself have grown and put up, because I think that would be really cool to have a pantry full of food that I grew myself. But we're not in a position right now to be able to do that. We don't have really the space. I do what I can, but we don't have the space to preserve much at all. So once we move out to our property, that is my goal. I hope to be able to do that. But for right now, we do what we can. We live in this, like a little suburb. We have a small house, a small backyard. And so, like I say, do what you can wherever you are, because there's always something that you can be doing. So I hope that you got something from this. If you don't really care about this chatty part, I hope at least you enjoy making cookies, and I will see you in the next vlog. Bye-bye.